Todd Richards here, Roots, Hearts,
and Soul.
Stefan and I are launching this podcast based off cookbook Roots, Heart, and Soul by myself, Todd Richards, with a great help from Chef Stefan, the man, the myth, the legend himself.
Oh, you stop, you. We have such a beautiful history together.
I mean, it's crazy. Really, what people are going to get from this podcast is telling the story of Afro people, Afro cuisine.
We're going to be telling the story of the Pan-African diaspora.
Roots, heart, soul of the world, as we say. We are launching in a couple of weeks here. Some terrific guests. Stay tuned. Follow us on all our social media at Chef Todd Richards in all formats. Chef Stefan, what's yours?
ChefStefan.it, AYITI. This is the correct way to say Haiti.
Well, we're getting education already.
So if you want to find out more, if you want to listen to great stories being told by amazing, amazing culinary talents, we're going to be hearing stories from Africa all the way to the Caribbean, all the way to the Americas. It's going to be something special.
Giving everyone the good rhythm, the good vibes.
Yeah, baby.
We look forward to seeing everyone. Talk soon.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
Whether you're a chef or just love going to restaurants, you know the best ingredients are everything. Westholme is working with the land to create nature-led Australian Wagyu. Learn more at westholme.com.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to Cutting the Curd. This is Jessica, but only for a few minutes, because I am turning over the mic to my very special guest today. John Braga is a New York-based wholesale cheesemonger, but he is also a supreme judge at the Mundial do Queijo, Brazil's World Cheese Awards, which was most recently held in São Paulo this past April. Brazil is a geographically huge and diverse country, rich with cheese culture and tradition. But there are also innovative cheesemakers with stories that will resonate with turophiles all over the world. We're going to start today's supersized episode with a short conversation with John about the World Cheese Awards and an overview of cheesemaking in Brazil. And then John is going to introduce you to Eloisa Collins, owner of Capril do Bosque, a dairy specializing in artisanal goat cheese, and Juliano and Bruno Mendes, brothers and owners of Palmeiro de Alimentos, producers of award-winning cheeses under the brand Vermont Queijos. So let's begin by hearing from John. John, welcome to Cutting the Curd. Can you start by telling us about the World Cheese Awards that were held in São Paulo, and what are they, and what does it mean for Brazilian cheesemakers to host this event in their country?
Hi, Jessica. Thank you for having me. It's so great to be back. So Mundial do Queijo is a biannual event that takes place in São Paulo, Brazil, and it's organized by Sertão Brás in partnership with the Guild of Fromager. It's likely the biggest cheese event in South America, attracting over 1,900 cheeses, which are judged and awarded by experts in the industry, and also cheese professionals from Europe, North, and South America. During the 4-day event, attendees, makers, and mongers attend workshops and taste dozens of varieties of cheese.
Are there ways this competition and event is different from the World Cheese Awards held in Europe or other world cheese competitions? You mentioned when we spoke before that there is a cheesemonger component.
Oh yes, definitely. I think what makes it so unique is first, the varieties of cheeses that you find at Mundial do Queijo. Most of these cheeses never really make it to the World Cheese Awards in Europe, mainly due to logistics. There's also a cheesemonger competition, similar to the one that happens at Le Mondial de Fromage, where cheesemongers are tested on their cheese knowledge and also their skills. And there's also a cheesemakers competition, where cheesemakers are asked to develop a new recipe months prior to the event.
Can you describe the highlights of being a supreme judge? Some cheeses you were able to try, and also you were able to introduce some cheeses to your fellow attendees, right? So what are some of the cheeses that you were excited about having there? And then what were you able to introduce to others?
Well, being invited to work as a judge in the cheesemonger competition and as a supreme judge in the cheese contest, alongside Jason Hines, Luisa Villegas, and Georgina Yescas, who have been in the industry for so many years and know so much about cheese, was an absolute honor. As a supreme judge, we have the opportunity to taste all the super gold cheeses, select the one we think deserves to win the competition without even knowing who the maker is or where the cheese comes from, and to defend it in front of an audience, which was pretty exciting. I was also invited to teach a class on Wisconsin cheese. So I brought with me Red Barn Heritage White Cheddar, Deer Creek Vat 17, Cave Aged Chandoka, and Chris Frawley Red Rock. Oh, and I also snuck in some cheese curds from Ellsworth into my suitcase. This was a last minute decision, but totally worth it. You can't speak about Wisconsin cheese without including cheese curds, right? Everyone loved the cheeses. Even though cheese has always been part of Brazilian culture, we don't often have access to artisan cheddars there.
You mentioned to me that cheese has always been a part of Brazilian culture. Can you describe this for listeners? Are certain cheeses made predominantly in certain parts of the country? And what are some of the influences on cheesemaking in Brazil?
So cheese was brought to Brazil by the Portuguese right when they first arrived in South America in the 1500s. For centuries, Brazilians have consumed raw cow's milk cheeses similar to Portuguese queijo do pico and queijo São Jorge, both for breakfast and in the afternoon with coffee, bread, cakes. Cheeses like canastra and cerro, for instance, are so popular and traditional that they have something similar to a geographical indication of origin, which means that they can only be produced in specific regions of the country. Then we have other traditional cheeses like requeijão, queijo coalho, and cabacinha that can be produced anywhere in Brazil.
So, what is the current cheese scene like in Brazil with regards to industrial production and artisanal production, international and domestic selection and availability?
I think the current cheese scene in Brazil is very diverse. Brazil has 26 states plus a federal district, and every state has its own traditions, climate, geography, and also different ways of making cheese. They're making cheese with cow's milk, goat, sheep, water buffalo's milk, both raw and pasteurized, and aging them in so many different ways. There are big companies producing some of the most popular cheeses in Brazil, such as requeijão cremoso and slicing mozzarella. But there are also hundreds of cheesemakers producing less than 50 liters of milk a day, and everything in between. It's very exciting, and you're all invited to come see it with your own eyes, so let's take a trip to Brazil.
It's time to hand over the hosting to you, John. And as you introduce us first, Eloisa Collins of Caprio do Bosque, thank you for speaking with me. And friends, we're going to pause first, but when we are back, John will introduce you to Eloisa, who spoke with him from her home in Brazil.
Our first guest today is Eloisa Collins, the head cheesemaker and founder of Caprio do Bosque, a goat's milk creamery located in Joanópolis, São Paulo. Eloisa is a pioneer in making bloomy and blue goat's milk cheeses in her home state, and her cheeses have won multiple awards in Brazil and Europe. Hi, Eloisa. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, John. It's a great pleasure to talk to you. And I hope we see each other again soon.
Me too. I mean, I've been lucky enough to visit your creamery twice, to taste your cheeses on different occasions, and I have to say, I'm a huge fan of your work. You know that already. But for those of you who don't know you yet, when did you decide to become a cheese maker, and what was the beginning like?
Well, it's a bit difficult to set a date because cheese making used to be a strong hobby, let's put it that way. I started making, my first cheese was made when I was about 22. And I am 74 now, so it's been quite a while. But, I started making simple cheeses on the farm. An old lady who used to live here, she's not alive anymore, taught me how to make my first cheese, and that was many, many years ago. And that hobby progressed little by little until the 90s, when internet started. And I was very lucky to have one of the first internet accounts in Brazil
Oh,
in my
wow.
office at the university. So then I started talking to other cheesemakers in other parts of the world, including the United States, people who used to make cheese at home, in their kitchen.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And so the hobby progressed and developed along during many, many years. And I really became a professional cheesemaker in around, let's put it that way, around the year 2005.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah. So my professional activity is totally based on an informal
Mm-hmm.
type of cheese making activity. And that was very interesting to me because it gave me, a lot of freedom and a lot of time to practice, to correct problems, to find out about new methods, new ways of making cheese, to talk to people because I was not pressed by time or by the need to have a profession.
What were you doing before you started to make cheese?
I'm retired now, but I was a university teacher in the area of applied linguistics
Mm-hmm.
for 35 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I used to have doctoral and MA students at the university and
Mm-hmm.
read their monographs all day long. And
That's amazing.
cheese making was a hobby that I chose first because I love cheese. I love eating cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And second, because I needed something pretty concrete, very different from what I used to do.
That's
So
awesome.
coming to the farm during the weekends and making cheese was a radical type of difference, was a big
Mm-hmm.
difference. And,
Yeah,
and that was very necessary at that stage.
that's amazing. And what was the first cheese that you made at
Ah,
Capril do Bosque? And
uh-huh.
where did the inspiration come from? Because I remember we talked about this in the past. You mentioned something about
Yeah,
your grandfather
yeah.
taking you to a cheese shop, right?
That's right, yes. As I said, when I started Capril do Bosque itself as a business, I already knew how to make several cheeses,
Mm-hmm.
or at least I had, practiced making quite a few different cheeses. And I chose 5 types of cheese to start Capril do Bosque.
Uh-huh.
It was a bit crazy because I didn't know I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, and I chose cheeses from different families.
Uh-huh.
I chose Azul do Bosque, a blue cheese,
Mm-hmm.
because that came from long life experience at home with my grandfather, as I told you. I chose a bloomy cheese, um, Lua do Bosque.
Mm-hmm.
Then the pyramid, which was going to be my lactic cheese and still is my best, my most sold, let's say, most popular goat cheese. I also chose hard rind, very matured caprino style
Mm-hmm.
cheese, similar to pecorino, which is more
Mm-hmm.
popular,
Mm-hmm.
and a fresh cheese, which in Brazil we call boursin, but
Mm-hmm.
which is a creamy lactic cheese drained over 36 hours, more or less. So it's pretty acid and very creamy. So those 5 cheeses started my professional activity, and my commercial activity as well. But I didn't know at that time that I would have to have different caves, different maturing rooms for the different cheeses, you know. So that made my name across the country, but also brought me lots of difficult things to face and lots of investment, let's say.
I can imagine. And how many cheeses are you making now?
At the moment, we are making 13 different kinds of cheese.
Oh wow!
Plus one sweet, what we call doce de leche, milk sweet, like a fudge, kind of a creamy milk sweet. So it's 14 products at the moment.
That's amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about the most popular ones? Because I've had Coração em Brasa and Cacauzinho. Those are my favorites.
Yes,
can you actually tell us a little bit about those cheeses?
They're pretty popular, and you've made lovely photographs. I included one of the photographs, the photos you've made, with the photos that were required last week. I hope people like it. By the way, if you can send them a copy with a better resolution, maybe they will like it better. It's one of the photos of Cacauzinho.
Aww.
Anyway, so Cacauzinho and Coração em Brasa are on the list of what I call the author cheeses. Cacauzinho was a suggestion, a proposal that I made to a famous chef in Brazil. He wanted a cheese to serve at his restaurant, and I came up with this suggestion. It's a roll, a little roll. It's
like a log, right? Like a little log?
Yes, that's right. It's a little log. It weighs only 80 grams, so it's pretty small. And this is why it's called cacauzinho. Inho in Portuguese is the suffix for diminutives. So like a small cocoa. Cacauzinho means small cocoa. So
cute.
It's lactic, it's creamy, it's rolled like a little log, and after being rolled, it's coated in pure cocoa powder with a touch of cumaru. Cumaru is a Brazilian seed equivalent, not in taste, but in strength, to vanilla. True vanilla, right? So it's kind of an equivalent to vanilla. So we add a little touch of cumaru to this cocoa powder. We roll the little log there, and then it goes to the maturing room, and there it gains the mold, which makes it white, but with a few brown little windows through which you can see the cocoa.
That's amazing. And what about your other original, Coração em Brasa? That's also an amazing cheese.
Coração em Brasa is very good. It's one of my favorite.
Mine too.
This also came as a request by my first client, my first retail shop. He asked me for cheese with peppers, and brought me a collection of 3 different Mexican peppers, dried already. So it was habaneras, chipotles, and cayenas. So I powdered those peppers. Almost went blind with the powder. I didn't really know how strong they would be. So I produced this blend of Mexican peppers, added a little bit of paprika to make them a bit milder, and decided that the cheese would have the form of a heart, because that would be a nice way to demonstrate my friendship and my love for Bruno Cabral, this this cheesemonger who requested the cheese. So I made this heart, um like two halves. So the first half, then the blend of peppers, like filling, a very delicate, fine filling.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other half of the heart. Then we coat it with charcoal. I call it charcoal because it's more like charcoal. It's very
Mm-hmm.
black, okay? But in other places, people talk about ashes for cheese. So it's coated, this heart then with the filling is coated in ashes, and then it goes to the maturation cave and gains the penicillium candidum, which makes it white. So again, it's a white heart, but with a few traces of ash or charcoal underneath. And when you cut the heart, then you expose this fine layer of peppers. And it's called coração em brasa. How do you say brasa in English, John?
I'll probably say fire. It's almost like hard on fire, isn't it? Like something along those lines.
Yeah, okay. So the it's the thing that we get on the fire, right? When charcoal goes on fire, and the name comes from this feeling of piquancy. It's a bit from the taste of peppers, the peppers, right? So this is why it's called coração em brasa.
Yeah, I love this cheese. To me, it's almost like a blend between like Neuchâtel, the French heart-shaped bloomy rind cheese, Morbier, and I would say Valence. It's like a mix of those cheeses, but with a Brazilian / Mexican, like kick, I love it. I think it's a beautiful original, that I've never, really had anything similar to that anywhere else in the world. So I think it's a beautiful cheese. It has this really lovely texture, and yeah, definitely one of my favorite Brazilian cheeses. And yeah, and you did mention Kumaru, which is this. It's almost like it's like you described. It's almost like an equivalent to vanilla, but
it's like a large bean.
mm-hmm.
It looks like a black large bean, and it's pretty. It's got a pretty strong taste, powerful taste, and but when you use just a little bit, it gives you a beautiful flavor. In that sense, it's like vanilla, because vanilla is something that you have to use just a little bit of, right? Otherwise, you spoil whatever you're making. So it is ideal for touches of flavor and elegance, I would say.
Yeah. Is that what makes do you think that those flavors, and I mean there are probably a lot of other things that makes Brazilian cheese so unique, but is that what makes Brazilian cheese so tropical and so different? What do you think that, because this is a question that people ask me a lot here in the US, and I never really have an answer to, but I wanted to ask you to see if you have a different, like a better answer than the one I've been giving everyone. What makes Brazilian cheese so unique and so tropical?
Well, I don't really think we have we have. I don't really think Brazilian cheese is unique. I mean, you could say it is unique in the sense that it is good quality or it is very interesting. It's different from other cheeses. But truly, I mean, Brazil is so big and so vast from the point of view of weather, climate, and geology as well. I mean, terrain is very, very varied. So we have hundreds of different terroirs, and this will definitely have an impact on cheese and other artisanal products. So I would prefer to say that we have quite a few unique cheeses, but we don't have something unique about Brazilian cheese. Of course, we have a few methods or ingredients which are unique in the sense that they only grow in Brazil or that they are typical of Brazilian process in making cheese. One of these examples is the pingo. Pingo literally means drop in English because it is obtained from the whey that drops, and at a certain point, when it is very acid, it becomes a starter itself. So it is used in Minas Gerais. The whole of Minas Gerais practically uses the pingo as their starter. And the pingo in combination with raw milk, raw pate, and pressure, all together they make quite a good cheese, which is typically Brazilian. This is the case of all the cheeses known in the region of Canastra. And so we have a few things which are truly Brazilian, but they do not represent the country as a whole because we have different cheeses all over the country. The colonial cheese, for example, in the south is beautiful cheese. We have queijo de coalho in the northeast, which has origin in the halloumi of the Arabs, is also beautiful cheese. You eat it grilled. We have other cheeses in the north. Ilha de Marajó, for example, has a very, very good cheese. So we have quite a few unique cheeses.
That's true. That's why it's so hard to answer that question, because whenever somebody asks me to describe a Brazilian cheese, I always think about that. Like, wait, which one? Because we have hundreds and hundreds of different cheeses in Brazil.
Yeah.
But if somebody were to visit Brazil, let's say tomorrow, and they asked you for, they asked you to recommend 3 cheeses that they should eat while they're in Brazil, including at least one of yours, what cheeses would you recommend?
Well, I mean, people ask me that question all the time. I mean, people who haven't eaten my cheeses, they say, where should I start? I always put a question back to them, asking them what type of cheese do you prefer? People usually are usually able to express their preferences talking about intensity. They usually prefer a mild cheese or a more intense cheese. So this is something I consider when, giving people suggestions. At the moment, I am in love with my newest cheese. I'm not. I'm not a very trustworthy person in terms of cheese, and I change my mind all the time.
You're a little biased. You're making them. I mean, that's totally fine.
I'm currently in love with Gigante do Bosque, which was the cheese that gained Super Gold this last April during the World Cheese Festival here. I'm in love with it because it's different from anything else that I have already made. And it's really very good. It's pasteurized milk, raw pate, very good pressing, I mean, strong pressing, and maturation with wild mold of at least 3 different types that grow kind of naturally on the rind. So it's kind of it's soft inside. It's not creamy, but it's soft inside and very tasty. It tastes of the woods. This is why I like it so much, because it reminds me of my bosque. Bosque in Portuguese means woods, right? So, and it's called Gigante do Bosque Florido. Gigante because it's the name of the mountain that I see from my window. It's like a lying giant on the Mantiqueira Mountains. Bosque because that's the name of my creamery. And Florido because it's bloomy, right? The cheese is bloomy. And it gained a super gold. I was very proud because it hadn't been launched yet. It had only been tested, and it went to as a proposal, as a test. Let's see what happens, and it gained a super gold.
That was amazing. I thought when I tasted it, because I was I was lucky to be chosen to be. I was invited to be a supreme judge, so I had the opportunity to taste your cheese, and to me, it almost felt like I was eating a like tome de Savoie, but made with goat's milk, and that was kind of fascinating. It was just very different than everything else that I've ever tasted before. And I remember Emma Young, this wonderful cheesemonger from the UK. She was like, "I need this cheese. This is the best one. I'm gonna defend this cheese. This is the one that I love the most." And it really is a beautiful cheese. I was surprised when you mentioned that it hadn't been launched yet. At that point, I thought it was a cheese that you were already making for years because it tasted that incredible.
Yeah. What I like very much about that cheese is that it has a fruity flavor inside, kind of like a touch of pineapple, very subtle.
I love that.
Yeah. It's really very tasty and a very fine cheese. I'm going to launch it next week.
Oh wow! Which it's what end of June? Is that when we're talking about?
Yes,
end of June. That's amazing. That's amazing. So you also talked about Mundial do Queijo, which is Brazil's version of the World Cheese Awards. From what I heard, I've never been to the World Cheese Awards, but I've heard actually from Joe, one of our hosts here at the Cutting the Curd, that the rules are very similar. So you have these tables. So for those of you who don't know, Mundial do Queijo is this cheese contest that happens in Brazil every other year. It takes place in São Paulo, and it's just an incredible event. And Eloisa actually helps organize this event, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a minute. But the rules are basically the same. You have a table with about 10 dairy products, and usually 2 to 3 judges per table. And they grade these cheeses based on appearance, flavor, aromas, and a bunch of other things. And in the end, depending on the grade each cheese receives, they can get bronze medal and gold medals. And you can have multiple bronze medals, multiple silver and gold medals at the same table. However, there can only be one super gold per table. And that super gold is taken to a separate table in the afternoon. And they sit there waiting for a supreme judge to go and pick their favorites and defend them. And then in the end, the supreme judges will grade each one of the cheeses and choose the best one of the entire contest. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so you worked at Mundial do Queijo this year. Can you tell us a little bit about the awards and also about the fact that Gigante do Bosque, a cheese that was created by you, was one of the winners? How is that experience, like, being one of the winners, having a super goal for a cheese that hadn't even been launched yet, and what changed after that?
Well, I mean, helping organize this world festival, Mundial de Queijos, was quite a strong, powerful experience. We had almost 2,000 cheeses competing, and many producers. I think we had something around 500 producers from all over Brazil and other countries as well. We had 12 different countries competing. So it was a massive amount of quality cheeses all coming to Sao Paulo. And my work there, my job in the organization, was to help organize the cheese competition. So it was quite a lot of work for many months before the contest, and also during the competition, of course. It all went reasonably well, I would say. I mean, people were very happy about the organization and the results. And I have only just finished recovering, let's say, from the load that I managed to take off my shoulders. Because we're in June, right? So I used the month of May to kind of recover, not in any way very leisurely. I mean, I did other things, different things. For example, preparing the cheese to be launched. So Gigante do Bosque was one of the 5. Let's say, rated as one of the 5 best cheeses of the contest, which is a very, very good result. What changed after that? Well, from the commercial point of view, nothing has changed just yet, because we're going to launch the cheese at the end of the month. As soon as we came back from the competition, I posted a few photos, nice photos of the cheese, me holding the cheese, telling people, what had happened, what the cheese had won. And that was a very nice little celebration with over 3,000 likes. So that was very good at time.
It was a soft launch, right? Like you're
Yes, that's right. Yes, we just launched the photos, right?
yeah.
Because I mean, the very few cheeses that we had were sold during the fair, the cheese fair, during the competition. Attached to the competition, the Mundial also holds a wide cheese fair with cheeses from all over Brazil. And the very few cheeses that I had were taken to the competition and were sold there. So that was
Awesome.
a little celebration, and it was very nice. I was very happy about it, and everyone that tasted the cheese liked it. And then I came back home and started making the cheese. I mean, professionally. And we make, of course, we are very small, right? We only milk our milk. If you We have something like 200 liters a day, which is very little. That gives us around 800, 900 kilos a month. And if you think of this converted into pieces of average 150 grams, it's lots of pieces of goat cheese.
That's true.
So, taking that kind of situation into account, then this explains why I say we don't make very much. Gigante is produced once a week, and we produce 7 cheeses of about 1.2 kilos each.
Oh wow. You only produce 7 wheels a week?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because we have to produce all the others, right?
That's true. That is true. Oh
And
wow.
the others sell well, and they are already famous. So we mustn't forget about the others. And so we produce all the others. I mean, the other 13 products plus Gigante. So Gigante is being produced with this kind of balance in mind. Okay, 8 wheels a week, but now we've been producing it for quite a few weeks, 6 or 8 weeks. So at the end of June, we'll start selling. We won't sell the wheels unless someone turns to me and offers kind of a kilo of gold. But we'll be cutting the wheels into maybe 4 or 5 pieces, which is the amount usually sold if you think of goat cheeses here. So something between 150 to 150 grams. Okay.
Yeah.
This is our average size or our average weight goat cheese piece. So we're getting ready for the big launch.
That's amazing.
I suppose it's going to be fun, and then things will start happening, I think. But we've got. I mean, previous to Gigante, we've had 2 other super golds that sell very, very well. Both are blue cheeses. One was won this beautiful prize. It was also the second cheese in the whole competition. It's called Dolce Bosco. It's a blue goat cheese inspired in the Gorgonzola Dolce. And my first super gold cheese was Azul do Bosque, which is a very fine blue goat cheese inspired in Stilton, the British cheese.
That's awesome. I've been lucky to taste them both. They're both incredible cheeses. It's hard to choose one, like you just can't. They're very different cheeses, even though they're both blue goat's milk cheeses. They're very different cheeses, which
They're very
is
different,
amazing.
But the technology is very different.
Yeah.
So that makes them pretty different. And now we are very busy trying to have a better volume of goat's milk. I mean, our herd is now. We have only just got 40 new babies.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes, 40 new babies. And we are, our herd is growing. We now have around 200 animals, half of which are already milking or about to milk. So we'll soon have something like 300 liters a day, which is my target. I mean, I don't want any more milk than that. When I get 300 a day, I'll be very, very happy.
So, Eloisa, my last question for you is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
I would like to add a little word about what I consider artisanal. There's a big debate in the whole country about what can be called artisanal. I am convinced that artisanal has to do with volume, with how much cheese you make, because it's absolutely impossible to let's say keep quality totally stable and under control if you go beyond certain limits. Of course, this limit has to do with the type of milk you're using, the type of cheese you're making. But for it to be considered artisanal, you have to keep your production limit pretty controlled, I would say. There's also a big debate about whether artisanal cheese should be made with raw milk or if it can be made with pasteurized milk, if it accepts external, let's say, starters or not. So it's all sorts of variables that play an important role in what can be called artisanal. I have eaten very good cheese, which is made with pasteurized milk and external starters, and very bad cheese, which is made without one or the other. So I suppose it's really a matter of combining the best quality milk, the best control, and low volume, low production limits. And considering all those factors, I suppose I am entitled to say that I make good artisanal goat's cheese, and I'm very happy about it.
Oh, that's awesome. Eloisa, thank you so much once again for joining us today. It's always a joy to talk to you. And for those of you listening, you can find Eloisa on Instagram at Capril do Bosque. It's CAPRILDOBOSQUE.
I'm very happy to talk to you again, John. Thank you very much for this lovely invitation, giving me the chance to talk to people who live outside Brazil. And I'll be always ready whenever you call me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be back shortly after the break.
Whether you're a chef or just love going to restaurants, you know the best ingredients are everything, especially when it comes to beef. In Northern Australia, there's a different approach to raising high-quality beef. Westholme, based in Queensland and Northern Territory, is working with the land to create nature-led Australian Wagyu. They look after a sweeping stretch of territory from Brisbane to Darwin, with a climate as varied as the landscape. Westholme raises Wagyu beef, but there's a saying that their real job is to grow grass, meaning that if they take care of the land, the rest will take care of itself. Westholme stewards 16 million acres of rangeland, guided by their natural ecosystems. Westholme's team of rangeland experts and nature managers use a variety of tools to monitor and respond to the welfare of the environment, like satellites that assess grass health and on-the-ground research. Cattle are happier when they have the freedom to forage and explore, so Westholme ensures that they can roam wild, foraging at will for the first 2 to 3 years of their lives. Their cows graze on native grasses like Mitchell grass, which is only found in Australia, along with dozens of other plants, herbs, and seasonal legumes. The result is signature Australian Wagyu, built on a genetic lineage tracing back to Japan and imbued with the terroir of Northern Australia and a flavor suited to complement any cuisine. Westholme believes that when nature leads, flavor follows. Learn more at westholme.com.
Brothers Bruno and Juliano Mendes are the cheesemakers and owners of Vermont Queijos, a creamery located in Pomerode, Santa Catarina, in southern Brazil. In recent years, Vermont Queijos has won important awards in Europe and South America, including Best Latin American Cheese at the World Cheese Awards and Best in Show at Brazil's Mundial do Queijo. Bruno, Juliano, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, John. How are you? Thank you for having us.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm doing well.
So nice to be here. We are long listeners of Cutting the Curd podcast. So to be here today, it's a dream come true. So thanks for making it possible.
Thank you both for being here. So I've known you for a while now. I've tasted your cheeses too, loved them all. I actually, this year at the Mundial do Queijo, I actually selected one of your cheeses to defend, which was quite amazing. I didn't know it was your cheese. I had no clue. I had never tasted that cheese before, but it was definitely my favorite cheese at the table. I loved other ones too, but it was. I can say it was definitely one of my favorites. I tasted, like other cheeses from other judges. They're also delicious, but everybody picked the one that represented them the best, I felt like. But for those listening, I would like to ask you this. For our listeners today, can you tell us a little bit about the creamery and how it all started? I know there is a strong connection with the beer world.
That's right.
Is that it?
We were brewers before cheesemakers. So in 2002, we started a brewery here in Blumenau, in the south also, in Santa Catarina. And it was a big challenge, because we didn't have the beer culture that we have now. So we could only find here light beers, like Pilsners, very light. People would drink it really cold. So we came up with a different proposal of bringing different beers, like pale ales, like Weizen beers, and pretty different styles that we couldn't find here. So we made this job, and it was amazing, a huge experience for us. And during this time at the brewery, we were trying to build a beer culture that we couldn't find here in Brazil. And one of the ways that we found of doing it was working with and promoting food and beer pairing, right? So we made a lot of events talking about this. We brought Garrett Oliver from Brooklyn Brewery to make some dinners here. He's a master of food and beer pairing, right? The best in the world for us. And during this time, we went in 2006 to the Craft Brewers Conference in Seattle. And we saw a presentation from the owner of Beecher's Cheese. And he was also the owner of brewery, Pyramid. And he was talking about specialty coffee, specialty bread, all this movement of specialty food that was growing up. And he also talked about cheese and beer pairing. So it was amazing for us. We thought and saw it and thought about making it in Brazil also, promoting it to get the culture, beer culture more strong. And everybody was talking only about wine and food pairing, right? So we came up with this work with cheese and beer pairing. And that's how we got into the cheese world, I think. Right, Juliano?
Yes, that's it. We didn't have social media at that time, 2006. So as Bruno said, we started promoting in events, dinners, and for 15, 20 people at a time. And that's it. We had to study cheese, and we fell in love with the cheese world, which is something very easy to happen, right?
So in 2008, we sold the brewery to a big company. Now the brewery belongs to Heineken, and we went making restaurants. We had a restaurant at the brewery, so we thought it was a nice path to follow. So we were into the business. We knew something about it. So we went and made 3 restaurants in our city, right? And there was a time that we thought it wasn't what we were, what we enjoyed to do or to make, right? And we thought about coming back to industry, to making products and creating a brand. We thought that was what we really enjoyed doing, right? So we came up with the cheese world. We analyzed all the moment of the cheese in Brazil, and we thought it was pretty similar to the brewing scene that we had when we made the brewery, and we thought it was an opportunity. We had a lot of commercial cheeses, not different cheeses with flavor, aromas, different styles. So we thought it was a great opportunity to work in this cheese world.
That's awesome. And what cheeses were you making in the beginning?
We wanted to do several different styles of cheeses, but we had some restrictions from the inspectors. They told us that we would have to separate everything, different molds. We couldn't make different cheeses in the same place. So it would be it would be too expensive. The investment would be too high for us to try to make like blue cheese and bloomy rind cheese in the same place, because the investment would be too high, separating things. So we decided to go on bloomy rind cheeses at the beginning. So that was our first idea. Why? Because we appreciate a lot French cheeses. It's an inspiration for us. When we made beer, the inspiration for us was Germany, of course. And now making cheese, our first inspiration was France. And we love their cheeses and the way they make them, and bloomy rind cheeses in special. In particular. So we decided to begin with these types of cheeses. The other reason why we decided to do so, it's because in Brazil, these are the least known cheeses by consumers. Brazilians already know a lot about, of course, the yellow cheeses, the semi-hard cheeses, not washed rind cheeses, but semi-hard cheeses. Brazilians know a lot about blue cheeses, but Brazilians don't know a lot about bloomy rind cheeses, white mold cheeses. So we decided to go into that style, that family of cheeses.
So you did choose the most difficult cheeses to sell.
Yeah, we didn't know
Now
back
we
in
know.
the day.
Now we know. Too late.
So how has this, because you talked a lot about the beer culture, that like when you started your beer company, there wasn't much of a beer culture in Brazil. And the same thing happened with cheese. Like when you first started making cheese, there wasn't much of a Bloomy Rind cheese culture in Brazil. How has that changed from the moment you started making those cheeses and now?
Well, when we started making beer, so as you said, there was no beer. Bruno said that there was no beer culture in Brazil. All beers in the market were very, very, very light, no flavor, very cold.
Mm-hmm.
So making beer with some flavor, more bitterness was a big challenge. And we compared bitterness in beer, in specialty beer, artisanal beer, with the smell on cheese now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We think that it's the same, it's more or less the same challenge, making people not run away from smelly cheeses, because real cheeses, flavorful cheeses, many times don't smell very, very good, right? So as there is not a very strong cheese culture in Brazil yet, some people think the cheese is rotten, that it's spoiled and it's bad and it will make you sick. So we have to teach everybody about it and make people understand. And so it's comparisons. The bitterness on beer at the beginning is the same as the strong smell, many times bad smell on cheeses. So we always say that the biggest challenge for us when we made beer, when we were making beer and now making cheese, making more intense cheese, is the consumer itself. Of course, we have a lot of challenges, but to make the consumer understand and get interested in what we are doing, the more flavorful food, more flavorful beer, more flavorful cheese, is the big challenge. But that's the challenge we love to
work on. Yeah,
I love that.
We receive contacts every day by customers asking if the cheese is good because it's smelling not good. So it's an everyday challenge, right?
Like my fridge is very smelly.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing. Not when it comes to cheese aromas, but I often hear, especially for you guys, like you were located in the south of the country, so I would imagine that to travel those cheeses from the south to, let's say, my home state, Minas Gerais, or even to like states in the northeastern part of the country, that is very challenging. So how do you guys do that? How do you deal with that? I know, like customers, I know a lot of people, most people I know who eat, like cheese in Brazil, they are in the cheese industry. And I know that a lot of people, don't know much about cheese either. So how do you explain that to them? How do you, explain even to cheesemongers that the cheese is supposed to smell a certain way, or it is supposed to look a certain way?
Well, talking about the making the cheese reach customers, Brazil is a huge country, right? It's a big challenge. It's very hard for us because we don't have an infrastructure that can help us in that way. We don't have enough transportation. We are in a small town in the south. How do we make our cheese reach the northern part of the country? It's very difficult, and if we can, it's very expensive. So it's a big challenge. We hope with the growing culture and more people making cheese and the business growing, we can see some improvement in that way. So it's a big challenge.
And regarding the how to teach people and to make people understand that our cheeses are different and they have smell, they have aroma, they can have ammonia could be present and all that. Fortunately, today we have social media, right? So I said that when we were making beer, there was no social media, so it was very hard to take our message to our consumers. So now it's much easier. We can use Instagram, you can use TikTok, you can use Facebook, you can use in many ways social media to send a message. So we make videos, we make pictures, and all we can to try to take that culture and that information to our consumers.
That's awesome. And how many cheeses total are you making now?
We are making 9 different cheeses now. We have some blooming rind cheeses. We have lactic cheese, a fresh cheese. We have sheep's milk cheese, blooming rind. And we also have semi-hard cheeses, washed rind. This is pretty much all we have now.
John, at the beginning, we thought that the best thing to do was to make traditional European cheeses in Brazil, because that's what we did when we were brewers. We brought to Brazil German styles of beer, Belgian styles of beer. So when we started making cheese, we thought that would be a good idea to make European cheeses in Brazil. So we started making brie cheese, camembert. We started making Tom Vaudoise, which is a cheese from Switzerland, blooming rind cheese from Switzerland. And this first cheese that was the first cheese that we created, which was the sheep's milk blooming rind cheese. But the other cheeses were all cheeses that already exist in Europe. So we learned how to make blooming rind cheese with those cheeses. But in 2 or 3 years, we were surprised by a change in a shift on the Brazilian consumer behavior, because we come from a time when everything that is imported is better. Cheese from France is always better. Beer from Germany is always better, no matter which one it is. Wine from France is always better than anything made here. So we come from this time, this culture, this way of thinking. But fortunately, we started to see a shift on that mentality in the previous and the 2-3 years behind us. And Brazilians are beginning to give more value for products made in Brazil, with our terroir, with our ingredients, raw material, with our way of making, with local names. So Brazilians are starting to pay attention to this and to be more and more interested in buying these products made and created in Brazil. And they are stopping to think that everything that is imported is better. Of course, there are many great products, imported products, especially in Europe, for eating, right? But we can have very good products here as well. We can make good beer, we can make good wine, sparkling wine. Brazilian sparkling wines are great. Coffee in Brazil is great, and we can make good cheese as well. So it's very nice to see that shift. Brazilians are giving more value to our jobs, and because of that, we changed our path, our strategy. When we stopped making traditional European cheeses, and we started to create our own cheeses, our own recipes. So we started making cheese in 2017, and in 2019 we released our first. How do you say, John, in United States? Autoral.
We call them original. Yeah, your first original cheese. Yeah.
Yes. So now we prefer to make our original cheeses and not European style cheeses, traditional cheeses anymore. So that's what we are doing now. It's much more fun as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, speaking of that, this year, one of your cheeses, Morro Azul, won Best in Show at Brazil's Mundial do Queijo after tying with Gruyere. Can you tell us a little bit about the cheese and what it meant for you both to win such a prestigious award? I know how hard it was, and how tense. Like, I remember looking at Bruno. He was just like, because we didn't know until like the very last minute who the winner was, right? There was a tie, and we were like, who's winning this? And I remember looking at Bruno, and he was just so tense. He was like, am I going up on stage? Am I not? Like,
it was a good test for the heart, right? It was intense, but it was amazing, unexpected for us. Of course, that we always expect to win something, but I think not in that level. It was amazing. Until the end, we were in a good way fighting with Gruyere. And we had a tie, right? In at the end, and you had another reunion, right, to decide which one was the winner, and we got it, and it was amazing for us. We still can't believe it happened. It's been amazing for us, a great journey, right?
Yeah. And how would you describe that cheese? What is the cheese?
Okay, Morro Azul, which is translating is Blue Hill, right? The name, first talking about the name Morro Azul or Blue Hill, is a hill that is right in front of us at our creamery. So we can see it working every day. We can see it. It's a very beautiful hill. It's one of the tallest hills in our area, where people go to see the view, and it's very nice. So the name of the cheese is because of that hill, that it's very close to us. And the cheese is bloomy rind cheese, very creamy, very high humidity. It has in the United States and Europe, cheesemakers use spruce bark around the cheese, right? We use oak, so it has a wood belt around the cheese because it's so creamy to give it structure. And so when it's young, it's very light, very light cheese. It has some acidity. It has buttery aroma, flavor, and then it gets developing more intense flavors as time passes. So it has a shelf life of 60 days. And I prefer it when it's 60 days old, or 70 maybe. So when it gets more intense, and then you can taste some onion and garlic aroma flavor, and you can have more mushrooms and a whole complexity. The oak wood belt that we use around the cheese also lends some oak flavor, a very, very light, but some oak flavor and aroma to the cheese. So that's it. A very creamy and very nice for Instagram posts.
I agree. It is indeed a beautiful cheese. I've had it a couple of times, and it's always been great. I've had it at different stages, like at different ages, and it's always been incredible. As a matter of fact, Georgina Yescas and Jessica, they brought a few pieces to Mexico, and they literally just taught a class, I think last night or 2 nights ago, where they used your cheese as part of the lineup. So I think it's an incredible cheese that anyone who tastes it likes it. I've never seen a person taste that cheese and say anything
thank you
about it.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
good to hear. Thanks, John.
I mean, it was well deserved. Yeah. And you two also created a line of cheeses that are produced to be sold exclusively at small cheese shops by cheesemongers, which in Brazil we call queijista. How does that work? That's such a great idea, because I know you produce a lot of cheeses that can be sold at supermarkets and whatnot, but then you created this whole line of cheese that can only be sold at cheese shops, right? At smaller cheese shops. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
That was the idea. We sell to everyone, to big supermarkets, to everyone that wants to buy our cheese. And Giuliano came up with the idea of making a special line for the small cheese shops, for the cheesemongers, because they are the ones that really enjoy the products, that really like, and with big companies, we most of the times are just numbers, right? So in small shops with the cheesemongers, they really enjoy the work with the product because they like it. They love to sell it. So we came up with the idea of making a special line for them. So we only sell these special cheeses. They are seasonal for this kind of customers or clients, right? So we also have freedom to create different cheeses because it's seasonal. We don't have to think about all the costs because we're making only small batches, right? So we get some, for us, it's nice also because we get some freedom to create different cheeses that probably we wouldn't be making if we are thinking about scale and all this stuff.
Just to add something, we believe that no one is more passionate about cheese than the cheesemongers. Of course, cheesemakers are passionate about cheese and the cheese, especially the cheeses they make. So, of course, we love our cheeses. Of course, we love the cheese we make. But the cheesemongers, they love other people's job, other people's work, other people's cheeses. So it's they are more passionate than anybody. So we value that a lot. So cheesemongers are an essential part of the industry of this world. Without the cheesemongers, there wouldn't be the culture, the cheese culture that everybody is trying to create. They sell the message, they take the message much more accurately to the consumers. So they are the most important. They are very important in this world, in this industry, right? So we wanted to show that for real, making a line that would be sold only by them, only for them, by them.
That's amazing. We don't see that often, like producers who, make cheese exclusively to be so, like exclusively for cheese shops. And that's amazing. We also know that like not every country has a strong cheesemonger culture. But in the past few years, I feel like Brazilian cheesemongers have become, like more united and stronger, mostly because of this association called Comer Queijo. So they really, they come together and they support each other, like cheese shops from, the north of the country, like, support shops from the south. And if there is anything like there was a tragedy in a southern state, like a climate, like tragedy in southern state a few months ago, and cheesemongers from all over the country just organized themselves in a way that they would purchase all these cheeses from southern, from cheesemakers who got affected by the tragedy, and they sort of like help spread those cheeses across the country and sell them in different states, and that's pretty incredible. So it's nice to see. It's incredible to see that how strong of a cheese culture there is in Brazil, and how strong cheesemongers are in Brazil, but also to see cheesemakers supporting them, right? Like they're not on their own, so they're supporting cheese and they're being supported by you guys. So that's pretty amazing. I've seen videos and photos on social media of your queijista line. And again, queijista means cheesemonger in Portuguese. So I've seen photos of it, and the cheesemongers love the cheeses. They're not just cheeses being, they're not just like random creations. These are really good cheeses that are being made and sold at cheese shops. So congratulations for that. That's pretty amazing.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much, John.
It's a growing community. They are growing every day. I think we are getting stronger in the cheese world. It's really nice. Good for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you very much. This has been incredible. It's been amazing. Is there anything else you would like to add? Is there anything you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yes, I think maybe some people listening to us may find interesting or strange that the name of our cheese brand is Vermont. And maybe it's a good time to explain it. So in 2013, we wanted to make cheese. So we went to study cheese in Vermont at the VIAC, Vermont Institute of Artisanal Cheese. And we had classes with Dr. Paul Kinstead and several very nice Mont Serena, very, very nice teachers. And then that's where we learned how to make cheese for the first time. And in our class, Mateo Killer from Jasper Hill was one of the students in our class, which is very strange, right? What was Mateo doing there and there? So we think he was learning how to make cheese school. Of course, he wasn't learning how to make, getting basic instructions about how to make cheese, right? But he was there, so it was very nice to meet Mateo, and he's a great inspiration for us, Jasper Hill. And then that's why when you came back to Brazil after studying that, we decided to give our cheese name Vermont, because it was the place where we went to study cheese and learn how to make cheese for the first time. It was so important to us. And we never believed, we never imagined that one day we would be here talking to Americans. So Vermont, and we know there is a Vermont cheese brand in the United States, in Vermont, of course, which is a very nice brand, and we also admire it a lot. But we never thought that we would be here one day. So that's why our brand name is Vermont.
That's amazing. Yeah. And you guys have to come visit. I mean, you haven't been to Vermont in a while, right?
Right. We need to come. Yeah.
Yes. More than 10 years ago.
Yeah. So maybe we can, you guys can come and we can go all the way out to Jasper.
Yeah. It would be great.
Yeah. It would be amazing. Yeah. Right? Let's do it.
And for those of you listening, please, you're more than welcome to come to Brazil. If you need recommendations, reach out to Juliano and Bruno on social media. They're both on Instagram, but I'm going to give you guys their creamery's handle, which is Vermont Queijos. Queijos means cheese in Portuguese, but it's Vermont Queijos, Queijos. Very easy. So Vermont Queijos. And you can find both Juliano and Bruno on that page, like on their Instagram. Thank you very much for joining us today. It was a pleasure talking to you as always. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys here in the US.
Yeah, it was a great pleasure for us, John. Thank you for having us. It was amazing. Always nice talking to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the staff at Heritage Radio Network. It was we're very, very happy to be here.
Thank you.
I would like to say obrigada. Thank you to John, Eloisa, Bruno, and Juliano for being our guests today. And a special thank you to John Braga for being a guest host. It was great to change it up a bit. And I also want to thank our engineers, Armin, H, and Liam. We share the recognition from Culture Magazine, the hot list in cheese, with the three of you. Thank you to our listeners. We hope you enjoyed this special format and would love to hear from you if you have ideas for future episodes. You can message us at Instagram at Cutting the Curd. Please spread the word about our podcast and make sure to leave a review or a rating wherever you're listening. You can always find us at heritageradionetwork.org, and please stay cool out there.
Curd is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.